Car launches, a Christian Horner update, and Carlos Sainz comments on losing his seat. Heyo, Chris here, and thanks for tuning into the Delta, and welcome to the third installment of the Hot Lap segment, where we'll be discussing the most recent news in Formula One. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the car launches, Christian Horner, and the investigation that is undergoing with him, and Carlos Sainz comments on losing his seat to Lewis Hamilton. Let's do it. Let's start with the car launches here. February 7th, Alpine launched their car, and in my opinion, it was the most extensive launch. I had a lengthy video, and they launched another one of their versions of their cars in some other like racing league or whatever. They also had two car liveries, a blue one and a pink one, with the blue one being like their original flagship car that they're going to use regularly, and the pink one that they bust out every once in a while throughout the year. But there was a huge disappointment, in my opinion. I mean, not really just my opinion, but everyone's opinion, really. When they released the pink car, they unveiled it, and they took the tarp off the thing, and once you looked at it, it looked exactly the same as the blue car. So that was a little disappointing. One of the things I did enjoy about the car launch, though, was that they brought out the vice president and an engineer to discuss like how they plan on performing, or what changes they made to the car so they could perform better this year opposed to last year, and compared to like the other car launches that I've seen so far. No other team really did that. No other team broke down their car saying, we changed the front wing, we changed the back wing, we changed the location of the power unit, and so on and so forth. So good for Alpine for giving us more than just, the color of their car. I made a video on Alpine. If you want to take a look at it, I'll put a link in the description for that. And that's like my full reaction and opinion about it. But that's the gist of what the Alpine car launch was like. The next car launch that happened, it was on February 8th, and it was like a super mysterious one to me. See, I'm coming from America. They were on the West Coast there in Las Vegas with the launch. It was Visa Cash App RB, Formula One racing team. We'll just call them RB for short. They said that they were going to launch their car at 10 p.m. local time, and that puts me at like 1 o'clock in the morning where I'm at. And that's fine. I can stay up late. Didn't necessarily want to, but I was like, well, the Alpine car launch was pretty cool, so let's take a look how RB does it. I mean, it's Vegas, late at night. Let's new team, new branding, new color, Let's see what happens. And there was like nothing. I like sat there at like 1:15, like, where is the post to the live stream? And nothing. And then 10 minutes came by, and then still nothing. And then like I saw a post come out, and it was like a quick little short video of the car. It was just kind of frustrating because people stayed up late like I did, or woke up early, like if you were in the UK, to see it, and then nothing was delivered. But on a silver lining, the car looked the nicest, and in my opinion, probably still is the coolest looking car. The color scheme is great with the silver and blue. Everything flows together very well, and had hardly any carbon fiber at all. I also made a video on that one. If you want to check it out, link will be in the description as well. The next car launch then was on February 12th by Aston Martin. Now, I missed that. I had a very busy day that day, and I just was unable to catch the actual car launch, so I don't really have anything to say about it. Other than I got to see the pictures. I mean, it looks cool. It's Aston Martin. It's not as carbon fiber laden as most of the other cars, which is really nice. They went with their green and black, and they stayed true to their brand with a lot of the green, and that's what I kind of like, because Aston Martin's green is just easy on the eyes. I don't necessarily think the car stands out in any spectacular way, but it still looks sharp, and the fact that they decided to stay traditional with their true green color as like the main focus of the car was a nice reprieve from all the other carbon fiber we've been seeing everywhere else. And then we can move on then to February 13th. February 13th, Ferrari did their car launch. And this was the one where I just decided, like, I'm not going to lose sleep over not getting a reaction video out. Ferrari blessed us with a whole 1 minute video. Well, I guess it was 1 minute and some change, really. But it's just hard anymore to get excited off of just like 1 minute clips and Twitter posts, and then maybe a couple sound bites from the drivers and the team principal. And when we just get that quick little hit like we got with RB or Haas or something like that, you're just like, okay, that's fine. You're kind of on the bottom of the tier list. So I have a little bit of understanding. So I was kind of hoping for like last year's car launch with Ferrari, where they had like everybody that worked there, and they had in like the grandstands, and they drove the car out live and took it around the home track. I mean, it was spectacular. And this time it was, again, just kind of, here's a post, here's a video, let's get excited. Now, they did take it out on the track there later in the day. There was a video that came out about that, and it looked cool. Again, obviously, they're not pushing it to the limits. That's all PR, and as long as it's not getting, beached and thrown into a wall, that's all that matters. So it is what it is. But with all these quick clips and stuff like that, there's not much to say. It's like, yep, that's a car. It has a color related to their brand, and it either has too much carbon fiber or not enough for the just right amount. So it's the same thing with the Ferrari launch. It's a Ferrari. It's red. I do enjoy the fact that they didn't make a ton of black carbon fiber all over the car to make it lighter. It looks really, really sleek, because one of the noticeable things or changes they did to it, they put on like yellow lines around lettering and like almost not pinstripe, but like yellow striping across the car. And it just looks really, really, really cool. And then they also went with an interesting route by making the wheels red, like Ferrari red, instead of black. And I wouldn't say I was surprised. They put out a tweet a few days prior to the launch, and it kind of alluded to the fact that they were going with these red rims. Say that 5 times fast. Whew. And I don't know if I like them, but they are unique to say the very least. Overall, it's a pretty car. I'm excited to see it on the track. I'm excited to see it race. But we'll see how pretty it is if it isn't performing well. Again, this is where I always draw that distinction in these car launches, is that we don't know what they perform as. So they can look cool, they can be these wonderful production studio quality releases, or they can just be Twitter posts. Who cares? We don't know what they're gonna like, because regardless of how beautiful this car is, if Leclerc just bends it into the wall for no apparent reason, who cares that it's the prettiest, right? Now, talking about a pretty car, though, Mercedes launched today, February 14th. At least the day of recording this video is February 14th. It's the same shtick. It's a car. It looks like a Mercedes and all that other same stuff that I said about Ferrari, except insert Mercedes brand. But it looks solid. They made it mostly black, but they can get away with that just because Mercedes has been primarily black for a few years now. And then they put that silver nose on the car with the green lines. It just ties in really nicely. It's just great. They might be the most beautiful car this year. Like last year, I said that Ferrari was the most beautiful car. Right now, Mercedes holds that title, in my opinion. But again, it's just really hard to get excited about all these car launches and stuff like that just, when they're not exciting. Like this particular car launched in the morning. They're out in the UK. And there was, first of all, a 5-minute countdown to the launch. So it was a 15-minute video, but a 5-minute countdown. So you really only got a 10-minute car launch. And it was just 10 minutes of an interview with Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, and Toto Wolff. And believe it or not, when that thing started, it wasn't even covered. The car was just there. It was just like, hey, welcome, and this is the car, and this is, the drivers, and this is Toto Wolff, and we're going to hear about them. And it was just like, okay. And then they just say the same stuff, just like all the other teams. We're excited for the season. We can't wait for the race. We're excited to see what the car does, so on and so forth. And that's why, unless something spectacular comes out, I'm probably just not going to do reaction videos to car launches until I'm proven that they're exciting and interesting, because it's hard to make a 8 to 12 minute video of excitement when these teams put out a 1 minute video and a couple tweets that's supposed to make us exciting. But we'll pivot off of my gripes and complaints about that. We'll move on to something that I do think is a little interesting and worth watching. The side pods. I've been observing the side pods, and outside of just like the cars being different colors, even though most of them are black, the side pods are all like different shapes. And it's definitely interesting because, like, if you look at the rear wings and the front wings of these cars, they're all pretty similar. One might have a different bend here, or maybe the rear wing is a little smaller on another car, but overall, you can tell a rear wing from, or you can't tell a rear wing from one car to another unless it has the name brand on it. But with the side pods, it's a very different story. It seems to be very team specific, and Ferrari didn't seem to change much from last year, and they had a bit larger of side pods last year, and they kept those, so they're just as big. Just off of pictures. Obviously, I don't have a tape measure out there, but off of the pictures, they look about the same size. They went with a larger style side pod, while all the other teams decided to go smaller and or slimmer on the side pods. And it'll just be interesting to see how that really affects the cars over the season, and why many teams decided to go smaller while Ferrari decided to keep them larger. Another thing is when I'm looking at the pictures, it looks like Mercedes went all in with the smaller side pods being like one of the smallest. It's just an interesting observation that I plan on tracking throughout the F1 season. And I'm just want to see, like, is the side pod size going to be the meta? Like, is being small and slim going to be the difference between finishing, third instead of fifth, or making the top 10 and not making the top 10? So we'll see. Now, moving on to the Christian Horner update, the whole story is still pretty hush-hush. This is what we know. The investigation is being done by the energy drink maker Red Bull, not just the Red Bull racing team. Like, I guess word has come down the line, and it got to the Red Bull brand, and they wanted to conduct the investigation. And they said, after being made aware of certain recent allegations, the company launched an independent investigation. This process, which is already underway, is being carried out by an external specialist barrister. The company takes these matters extremely seriously, and the investigation will be completed as soon as practically possible. It would not be appropriate to comment further at this time. Now, it has been unveiled through multiple sources that the allegations are some sort of misconduct towards a team employee. Now, some are saying that it sounds like he's just too aggressive in his being in his management, and then that's about as far as it's gone. We're not gonna stipulate or be on anything else. So far, that's what we know, is that it seems to be a misconduct toward a team employee. There's not many details. Now, obviously, Horner denies all these allegations entirely and wants to clear his name. Despite the investigation, Horner still remains the team principal, because there have also been rumors that that higher ups in the biz wish for him to step down amicably, but that's just not the case. He's still the team principal, and he was at Silverstone Tuesday, February 13th for Red Bull's shakedown for their new car, the RB20, there in Silverstone. I don't really have any opinions about it. Like I said, I don't want to formulate an opinion until I have more concrete facts. I will not drag an individual down just because. We'll keep an eye on the whole situation, and as things come out, we'll report accordingly. But let's move on to something about Carlos Sainz. He finally made his comment on Lewis Hamilton replacing him at Ferrari. They're coming this 2025 season. Seeing how Carlos Sainz is my favorite driver, I just feel like I should talk about his comments on losing his seat. We'll start with Fred Vasseur's comments. He said it was one of the most difficult phone calls he had to make. He continued on. There was a lot of things that he said, but in short, like, he's convinced that Sainz is a professional driver and that they understand that they have a job to do this 2024 season, and Fred also thinks that it's a huge opportunity, being the fact that he comes from Ferrari and has had success at Ferrari. Like, this might be a dream situation. Now, I have a hard time believing dream situation. I mean, if racing for Ferrari is such a dream to begin with, then it's hard to believe it's a dream situation for Carlos Sainz. Unless he's like alluding to the idea that, look, Carlos Sainz could easily be a number one driver somewhere, but because he races Ferrari and that we have Charles Leclerc and the opportunity for Lewis Hamilton came about, he just won't get that number one seat opportunity here. Just, again, speculation off of the words coming out of his mouth. Long story short, he basically just said they want to stay focused on 2024. He said, we don't want to have any kind of distraction, and it's kind of the reason why they made the announcement so early, so they could just stay focused on the 2024 season. And that makes sense. Like, it was a shock to the whole F1 world, and could you imagine that being done, let's say, right when race week 18 is? You know, we're on the 18th race. We're in the middle of a constructors championship battle and a drivers championship battle, and then all of a sudden we get the news that happens. That's probably not the most wise decision for Ferrari or Mercedes. So I get it. I get what he's saying. Moving on to Carlos Sainz comments. He admitted that he was surprised that Ferrari made the decision to replace him with Lewis Hamilton, but he knew that was going to happen before we knew. It wasn't like the news broke and then 5 minutes later, Fred Vasseur called him and said, hey, this is what we're doing. He said it was obviously a surprise nonetheless, but because he knew a little bit earlier, he had time to reflect on himself and weeks to prepare about it before the news broke. And then it also gave him time to get ready for the car launch. So it sounds like he was just kind of like, despite it being surprising, when I found out, it also gave me time to clear my head and put my thoughts in order, which is nice, because he could have, if he would have just found out abruptly, I mean, he might have said some things or did some things that he may not have liked. But on juggling the future and the present, he said, as much as I said I wanted to get my future sorted out before the first race, now the scenario has changed quite a bit, as you can imagine. He goes on saying, it is going to be probably a longer process ahead of me, probably my most important 3 or 4 years of my career, where I want to make sure I'm in the right place at the right time. I want to make sure I pick the right next destination for me, so I want to take my time to think about it, to listen to all my options, have a look at all the options. From the sounds of it, it just sounds like he hopes this is not his last chance at a title with so many options ahead of this 2025 season. You know, with a lot of drivers probably are going to end up moving. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton's one of them, and that might be the domino effect that occurs. Next thing you know, George Russell takes seat number 1, Piastri goes to Mercedes, and Sainz goes to McLaren, or I don't know. We're just spitballing ideas here, but like, Carlos Sainz says that he still has racing in him and he wants a chance at the title. So for 2025 at least, he's looking to go to a team that has title chance opportunity. And I mean, he's put in a solid career at Ferrari with podiums, pole positions, and race wins. So I don't know. He's got the resume to back it up. So from the sounds of it, Carlos Sainz has a lot to think about, but he, Vasseur, and Ferrari seem primarily focused on the upcoming season. again, if they start winning, this will all be like, oh, well, it is what it is, but we had a great year. But if they have a horrible year, I think things can become salty over time if things don't go very well. It's weird for me because, like, I'm a Ferrari fan because of Carlos Sainz. I'm a Formula One fan because of Carlos Sainz. I mean, it's kind of maybe it's the other way around. I'm a Formula One fan because of Ferrari, and Carlos Sainz is the reason I'm a fan of the sport, because I like his aggression out on the circuit, his moxie on the radio, and his ability to remain professional in a time of uncertainty. And I mean, he's been able to exemplify that, even not just this big news, but even when things aren't going that well for him in the race season or a particular race, he seems to still be level-headed and still, work with the team. So wherever he goes, I can promise that team will gain a fan in me. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, and we'll find out what hat I need to buy when he gets there. Anyways, that's the Hot Laps segment for the recent news going on in Formula One. Not much major news like last segment, but mainly car launches, which is fine. Like I said, I don't really care for doing those big reaction videos if they're not going to be genuine. So maybe the Hot Laps might be a good place for me to talk about these car launches, at least for the remainder of the season. Also, we're still uncertain about Christian Horner's fate. I hope it's all a misunderstanding and a learning experience. I doubt that it will end that amicably, but as more information comes out, we'll discuss it accordingly. And then finally, Carlos Sainz seems committed to the Ferrari season, which is great news for Ferrari fans, great news for Fred Vasseur. I hope Sainz takes the world by storm, wins a couple races for himself, obviously for Ferrari, and then moves on to newer pastures and newer ventures with another competitive team, and we'll see where that takes him. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. What was your favorite car launch? Do you think the side pods are going to be a big deal? Are all the teams following suit with the slimmer side pods, or is Ferrari screwed sticking with the larger ones? And where do you want to see Carlos Sainz go for the 2025 season? I wish I'd see him at McLaren with Lando Norris. I think that would be a dynamic duo, but that's just me personally. But anyways, that's it. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Hot Laps on the Delta. My name is Chris, and until next time, take care, stay safe, and have fun out there. Bye, everybody.